before this appointed vice chair of this forum, also do any nominations?
Yes, I nominate Angela Clark.
Thank you. And seconder? Councillor Reynolds. So, any other nominations? No? Okay, so Angela is the chair, so Lisa is the chair and Angela is the vice chair. So, Angela, this is the
Okay, so welcome to the Disability and Inclusion Forum. My name is Lisa Hughes and I am chairing this meeting. This meeting is being held in person and via Zoom and streamed live to the public on YouTube. May I remind all the attendees that participation in the meeting indicates consent to the audio and video being streamed live and acknowledgement that after the meeting it will continue to be available in the public domain. Firstly, it would be useful if all panel members and officers could introduce themselves so that all public are aware of who is in the meeting and role that they are undertaking. Do I need to submit any?
request introduction, so that's the second part.
So my name is Lisa Hughes. I am chair of this forum. I'm a Maidenhead Maidenhead resident with disabilities. I'm a trustee at Fixed Places and director of nurseries. If I move to my left.
Good morning, everyone. I am Councillor Joshua Reynolds. I'm a cabinet member for Community Assembly Chair and EP for Offices.
I'm Catherine Del Campo. I'm the cabinet lead for adults and health and housing services. I'm Vicky Holt. I'm Community Development Manager for Oxford's Community Life Services, and we provide health services in.
Well, I'll speak up if you don't want to start here. So,
I'm Councillor Helen Price.
Dominic Manley, I live in Maidenhead. I'm a full-time wheelchair user, service user, therefore, admin volunteer, which means secretary.
Good morning, I'm Julia White, I'm the business manager for the borough. I'm Elizabeth Lansfly, I'm the Equalities and Community Engagement Officer for the Council.
Peter.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Haley. I'm the Chief Executive of People to Places. Thank you.
Claire.
Hello, I'm Claire Walsher. I'm a Strategy, Policy and Performance Officer.
Robin.
Robin Pemberton, Braywick Heath Nurseries Chair and Chair of Braywick Charitable Trust.
And Sharon.
Sharon Bunce, I'm a forum member, I live in Maidenhead.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the meeting format, I request that meeting participants do not speak unless I specifically invite you to do so. Once I've invited you to speak, before you do so, please state your name and capacity in which you are speaking if appropriate. I will also ask officers to speak at appropriate times. If any individual attempts to disrupt a meeting, I am able to use my powers of the Constitution to adjourn the meeting or have the individual removed. I would like to kind of highlight really the importance of the forum. It's been highlighting issues for residents and visitors with disabilities for 30 years. Succession of forum chairs and members have worked well with council officers and members to improve policies, amenities and services for people with disabilities, long-term health conditions and additional needs. Over the years of the forum existence, there have been significant legislative changes and regulations that were intended to improve the lives of disabled people. The Disability Discrimination Act was replaced by the Equality Act 14 years ago. The Equality Act is about equality of opportunities. The opportunity to cross a road as a wheelchair user, the opportunity of good education as an autistic student, the opportunity to participate in elections as a voter with learning disabilities, the opportunity to safely walk to work as a visually impaired employee. what we do here matters. It might not change the world, but I hope it will change some lives for the better. So thank you to everyone here for your interest, your attendance, your work behind the scenes, your dedication. So I'd like to move on to the agenda to any apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, so apology from Andrew Clark, Sharon McCarthy and Tim Clare.
And now we will consider the minutes from the last forum. Does anybody have any issues, things that they thought should be in the minutes that weren't, any errors? Can't see any hands up online, so can I take that as the minutes are approved? Yeah. Okay, so on to our summer meeting. Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the results of the tax season. So
Just at the end of the meeting, last meeting.
yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes, right. So at the end of the last meeting, we discussed whether the format of the meeting was productive and whether there were different ways that some of the things that we wanted to examine and recommend could be achieved in different ways. So Angela Clark and I met with Councillor Reynolds. We had a really positive meeting there where we discussed that some of the issues that may arise during the forum or members might raise in the forum are not always they're not always best solved by a public meeting, and therefore Councillor Reynolds offered to assist in getting meetings with the right people, the right officers, members in the council, so that these items could be addressed, and then the outcomes brought back to the forum. We also discussed bringing the council plan to the forum and having the forum decide with input from the members which of those items within the council plan the forum would like to assist on during the year. So that's the current state. Andrew and I thought it was very useful for the council members for it, and we will see how it goes. We'll monitor it if members of this forum don't find it kind of moving things forward, then we'll have to kind of go back and have another discussion about how we can address those concerns.
So could we put it forward, say in a year's time, with on that full plan, to actually say we want to review as happens?
Yes, I think that's a good idea, thank you. So item number 6 on the agenda is the results of the tax consultation. So a document was sent out to members and the kind of the 2 key parts of that tax consultation were around delivery and whether or not the council would require, the licensing panel would require taxis to be identifiable by delivery, and then the other aspect was around DBS checks. Does anybody have any questions relating to the taxi consultation? Councillor Price.
When the question is asked and people who are answering the questions, normally an age analysis, is there also a question saying, do you have a disability? So, because I'm not sure whether we should be looking at this from the point of view of people with disabilities, improving access.
Ellen.
So we do have some guidance around demographic questions that should be included with consultation, which include other kind of bases, age, gender, disability, ethnicity as well. I I can't remember which ones we use, and again, it's maybe an area of our consultation process we need to make a bit more robust. If I think occasionally those questions don't get in, but it's in the kind of best practices. Yes, absolutely, those questions going, and then it helps us to understand who's actually participating in the consultation, so we know who isn't giving their perspective, and B, we're able to then analyse the results in terms of kind of different impacts and different perspectives across the different. Yeah, I can't remember whether those questions were in the consultation process.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Just on that point, I think it's important to say that the council is just launching a new consultations panel made up of senior officers relevant to consultations within the right departments that will review all consultations before they go out. And hopefully those are the kind of items that these consultation panel will be looking at to make sure robust and the right questions get answered in each of these consultations, rather than individual questions which might be relevant to different ends when they're not designed by consultation specialists.
Dawn.
I probably haven't read enough background material, but I remember taking part in the consultation. But what is the status? Is it a result decision?
Yes.
So the licensing panel worked through their item, and if I bring the agenda up, they confirmed that we will be reviewing the livery, so it won't be changed, but it will to ensure that it's still recognisable as RBWM carriages, and they are still safe in that respect. That is currently being worked at the moment. I know officers are looking at various designs for what the new livery looks like and how it is. I think there's a balance to be made between what some might see the excessive cost of the livery, which is currently in place, which I think is around £2,000, the livery for drivers, but making sure that they are recognisable by all of our residents at the right time. Also, obviously, with Julia and the marketing side of things, with Visit Windsor, actually, you've got a lot of tourists within the borough who need to make sure that they can identify specifically licensed taxi carriages rather than just private hire vehicles. So there will be a change to the delivery, but if the final thought hasn't quite been decided yet, it's progress.
And also with the DBS checks, agreed that 6 monthly DBS checks should be introduced, and that drivers would pay for this from the 1st of April 2025. Councillor Price.
And Josh, correctly, my understanding was that the new livery will be phased in, so because the taxi drivers and people have to pay for this money, which this is considered. So it'll be phased in, so as they're changing their car, then it will have a new livery. So we'll have a period of time that we have the older review. So it's trying to be, I think, mindful of the pressure on taxi drivers.
I did have a look at the wheelchair accessible vehicles, which are listed on the website. And I'm sure in the past there was a 10-year ceiling on vehicles that were committed to be taxis. And I noticed that it's about 70% of wheelchair accessible vehicles are 10 years old or over, with the oldest being 18 years old, which just seems very old. Wheelchair accessible vehicles, and there were very, very few that were under 5 years old. It's not part of this consultation, but it might be interesting to consider if there are age limits to vehicles that are missing.
It might be something that if the panel wishes, we can try and set up a brief conversation with either the licensing panel or specific relevant officers within the department, just to see what are our rules and how many change. Obviously, need to make sure that if we are, if currently there isn't a limit on those, if we were putting a specific limit on them, we'd want to make sure that we weren't going to immediately cull the majority of our accessible vehicles and then end up with very few in fleet. So I think there's that balance to be made, but I think it's a conversation to have to see what are the current rules and why are they in place, and then if there's any scope for moving to the future.
Were there any other points around tax consultations from anyone online? I can't see any comments. So we move nicely on to the council plan 2024 to 2028. So Claire, are you able to talk through this?
Yeah, I was hoping I'd be able to share some slides. I don't seem to have that facility available.
Spade co-host.
Excellent, thank you. Right. Here we go. Right. Yeah, so I was just going to kind of give a brief overview of the council plan. There's a lot more slides, so I am going to kind of skip through a few of these where I think they're less relevant. But just to give kind of a little bit of background, also pulling out from the document that you have already seen and was released earlier this year, that is the council plan. So all this information, or a lot of this information, is just drawn from that document. So kind of stating what our vision for the council and for the borough is, what our aims, our priorities and our deliverables. So by deliverables, we mean the things that we're going to do, so kind of the actions, what we'll deliver. And they're predominantly things that we're planning to do this year. I'll briefly touch on our values and how we're going to monitor. So in terms of the council plan, so as council, we see this as our most important strategic document. As I mentioned, we've got the vision, aims and priorities, what we'll deliver, but also the performance measures. So that's the way that we'll measure our progress, or one of the ways we'll be measuring our progress against the plan. We'll be continuing to monitor this quarterly. We'll also refresh the council plan annually, but that's predominantly about the deliverables. So we'd see that our vision, our aims and our priorities are likely to very much stay the same. And also seeing the council plan as this is the way that we prioritise our resources and prioritise what we're doing with our money, with our assets, and also with our time as a council. So in terms of our vision for the council is this is where we want to aim. This is kind of, I think, as the target shows. So looking to be an outward-looking collaborative learning organisation, to be at the heart of the borough's community, so championing local issues, caring and empowering residents, and also looking at the footprint that we're operating on and making sure that's on the appropriate footprint, which is likely in some cases to be more on a regional footprint in terms of things like the Berkshire Prosperity Board. But thinking about how we're working with others, how we're collaborating with our partners as well. And then in terms of the vision for the borough, so that's a borough of safer, greener and cleaner communities with opportunity for all. So this is underpinned by the 5 aims that we have. So in terms of kind of thinking about this terminology and trying to make sense of it. So we've got the vision as the top of the hierarchy, supported by those aims, supported by the priorities that underpin those aims and the deliverables. And we'll see these will also be in our staff objectives. So when we make our plans, but also in the service plans that we have. So, and in terms of thinking of the kind of important things such as sustainability and inequalities, we can think of them as things that run through this hierarchy. So they're not separate to it. And that our values are really important in the way that they guide our choices and behaviour. And so these are the 4 council values that we've kind of refreshed in the past year. So that's all a bit abstract. So putting that into words. So we have our 5 aims. So the first aim is about the finances. So that remains an urgent and important priority that we can't do without a stable financial position. We can't do all the other things that we'd want to do. So it's basically to put the council on a strong financial footing to serve the borough effectively. So aim 2 is about I suppose the environment and the borough, so having a cleaner, greener, safer and more prosperous borough. And so a lot of those deliverables align with things that the Place Directorate will be doing, but it's not solely about what the Place Directorate does. And similarly, aims 3 and 4, so aim 3 being focused around children and young people to have a good start in life and access to opportunities through to adulthood, although that is predominantly around the work of one department. We see that, I guess, countering silo working and working across the borough, working across the organisation is really important to delivering these things. And then aim 4, thinking more about adults, but also all the people who live in the borough. So people live healthy and independent lives in supportive communities. Then finally, aim 5. So that's about us as a council, so being a high-performing council that delivers for a borough. But that also links in with how we're working with others, how we're listening to our residents, communities, how we're engaging with our partners and other organisations and people. So the bit I'm now going to skip through very quickly is basically under each of these aims, we've got a number of priorities, but these are all within the council plan, which you may have looked at already, and we can come back to these if they were particular ones you wanted to focus on. But as I understood it, there's kind of the greater interest is probably around the deliverables and how you as a group can have a positive impact on those. So in terms of the deliverables, so they kind of form the secondary part of that council plan. There's 94 of them, so not anticipating kind of going through them individually today. But each deliverable has a lead directorate, or it might be described as cross-cutting in there. So that's about being able to hold people to account for delivery of them. As I mentioned, they're mainly due to be delivered in this year, or that they are part of a longer programme where there will be some kind of objective to be delivered this year in preparation for the future. So they can include a number of things. So they can be about establishing improved processes. They can be what we describe as transformation projects in terms of changing the way that we're working. And there's also pieces around strategy and policy development work. So thinking about the council plan, it doesn't include absolutely everything. So there's a lot of business as usual work that continues, and this is kind of in addition to that business as usual. So you don't necessarily see everything the council and officers are doing described in these. So with Ellen, and this is a slide I'll come back to at the end, we looked through those 94 deliverables, and these were the ones that we thought that might be of most interest. So it's not to say you can't, interested on your feedback if there are other ones that you've seen that you think are relevant and you would like as part of your fora plan or would like to contribute to. And also that you might look at some of these and say, actually, they're not things that are of interest to the group. So in terms of, I suppose, holding the council to account, so it's not just about what we're doing, which is about kind of the things that we're delivering. It's also about how we're doing it. And I think that's what's led by our values. So I think in terms of our values, so kind of humility, where we're thinking we don't know everything, so we do need to listen to others and to be open to changing in response to them. Empowerment is, I think, about the way that we work internally, so that's about having the information that people need to do their jobs and feeling confident they can make those decisions. Respect being about how we treat people, both within the council and beyond the council. And one team being about how we work across the council, across teams, across directorates, but also thinking more broadly than that about how we work with our partners as well. So finally, how will we monitor our delivery? So I appreciate this might initially seem quite confusing because there's quite a few things that we're monitoring. And so what you're seeing is, I guess, the more public monitoring, but there's also kind of monitoring within the council as well in terms of kind of the governance structures that sit underneath this. So in terms of what will be seen more publicly, so we have what's called the RBWM Future Shape programme, which is about our transformation work. So that's a really important thing that's happening this year, and it is in the deliverables. So there will be monthly budget monitoring alongside the transformation dashboard on a monthly basis. Then on the quarterly basis, the quarterly assurance report, which is kind of a long already in existence, will now include, in addition to being updated with the performance measures that are in this new council plan, it will also include quarterly updates on transformation as well. In terms of the deliverables, so that list of 94 items, the intention is to do that on a 6-monthly basis, and that will form part of the quarterly assurance report. And then on an annual basis, we will report on how we've performed against the council plan for that year. There'll also be essentially an annual refresh process, and so that's about checking back in that we have the right aims and priorities, and deciding on those deliverables for the year ahead. So I think that's all the slides. So is it helpful if I go back? I suppose firstly, any questions, but then if I share this deliverable slide, I'm kind of aware that it might not be easy to read. I'm not sure how it looks from where you are.
Lawrence, can you take the side participation bar away? Yeah. Make it slightly larger. So if I also, I'll read out what the aims are that have been selected, and I'll talk about what, I guess first of all, does anybody have any questions that don't relate to these specific deliverables? Councillor Price?
So when we got the vision on page 7, and there's a whole section on equality, diversity, and inclusion resolution, the saying you want to achieve. When I then looked at the plan to see, well, where is this reflected in measurable outcomes, I can't easily see it. And whereas the intention of the vision's excellent, I don't think we disagree with that. The reality of life is that people get judged on, have you delivered what you're going to be judged on? And if that isn't actually overtly as deliverable, it could get left. Now, it could be, I haven't spotted it, but I've been trying to see a relationship with the vision where that appears in specific things we can measure. Yes, we're doing.
So I can comment on that. So I think a lot of this, I mean, particularly around living healthy lives, opportunities for children, opportunities for people living independently, EDI is baked into a lot of that, and it kind of, in terms of our internal processes, how we're doing things, it should be, I think it is integral to a lot of the kind of things we must do. So pulling out, kind of isolating those things, that's, outside of that kind of, the priority, the aim, it's not always easy because it should be in there. I'd say as well, we've got the equality objectives. I think that's the area where we can have a more specific focus on equality, diversity, and inclusion. Now that we've got the new council plan, the equality objective was set last year. So I think there's now a process of making sure that those align with the priorities that are in the council plan, and that will be where there'll be options to pull out things which have a more obvious relevance for equality and diversity, as well as kind of including all the other things that we've already kind of highlighted that we want to look at. So I'd say the equality objectives are probably the area where that focus will be greater, but I think it is kind of baked into a lot of the things that we're looking at, but it's maybe less explicit in the council plan.
So in terms of monitoring the successful implementation, I sit on corporate open scrutiny, and we will look at whatever it may be on a quarterly basis or half-yearly basis, how we're performing. But what would the role of this forum be in looking at how things perform? Because at corporate, we look at the whole lot. We can't zoom down to something specific, spend a lot of time specific. Would it be useful for this forum to be looking at the things that help achieve the vision of the quality standards on a regular basis?
But the suggestion is, yes, that whatever the deliverables are, that the forum agrees it would like to participate in helping council to achieve that. Yes, we would be monitoring those outcomes, because that is the measure of success in there. And I mean, another element of how things are baked in is the equality impact assessments that are done for each project, policy change, etc. And I don't know if it's expected that each of these 94 deliverables will have an equality impact assessment to kind of supplement how those deliverables are going to be achieved.
So I think it depends. So it'll be, because the kind of deliverables be kind of part of the project and decisions. So there'll be kind of EQIAs if there are new services being changed or new services being set up. There's going to be decisions made to cabinet, and always have a EQIA that goes with that. So contracted things should have EQIAs attached to them. So it really depends on. They won't kind of by default all have as kind of the deliverable that they are, but as part of that work, I'd expect there'll be EQIAs coming through on the actions that we take and how the decisions.
Because one of the things that I noticed isn't on this suggested list of deliverables is in aim 1, where it talks about drive channel shift and improve digital access. That has the potential to be difficult for various groups of people with disabilities, but also older residents. So it's thinking about that in particular, where you've got something where you do have digital exclusion, and it's making sure that there are quality impact assessments.
I think that's really important, Lisa. So I think within that strategic priority, there each different directorate has got a transformation board that assesses internally, and that was with the executive director and other directors that are reported into the area. So I would imagine that strategic priority 1.3, obviously there will be changes which come and which can improve it. So those will come with EQIAs attached. But I think something like that for me is one of those items where disability inclusion forum could really get involved and want to help and shape what that looks like and see where that comes through. So I would be expecting when the next when the first thoughts come to this, and the target completion dates are September, October, and then March next year, I see those as the equality impact assessment and what do we want that future to be, setting the objective and the scope of our project, but baked into that scope, making sure that we make it easier for people that don't have easy access online or start online, being able to use those resources. So it's about taking that scope in early on, so it doesn't fall by the wayside to get them wrong.
So we did try to highlight that kind of digital accessibility. So in the bottom one, which is under the high performing council that delivers to the borough. So one of the deliverables under that is take steps to improve digital access to services, including the council's website, making payments and transactions easier and refreshing reporting. So yeah, I think we did kind of try to highlight that bit, because yeah, I think like you say, that's going to be really, really important in terms of making sure that we're not kind of excluding anybody when we make any changes to how people can access services online.
And we've got some fantastic resources within libraries, which comes into my portfolio with community and leisure. Actually, we've got some fantastic volunteers where we have a number of people on a weekly basis who struggle with technology. There was a lovely lady who came into the library the other day whose grandson bought her an iPhone, and she had no idea it was in the box. She had absolutely no idea what to know to do with it, let alone how to turn it on. How can we, the library, have the library team, and they've got it set up with them, talk her through how to use it, what's this going to mean, what's that going to put it into the accessible and easy modes that they come back in the market. So it's about using those kind of resources that we have internally. The library also have tablets for learning. So if you don't have access to the internet or device at home, but you want to be able to learn and get used to it, well, actually the library have these tablets for loan via referral partners, sponsors, including referral partner into that service. And you can help learn that technology by borrowing from the library for a while, because it might be right for you, you might then want to invest in the future, but it's about getting over the barrier.
Anybody online have any questions or comments to make? Peter.
My apologies if this is something that's already been covered. I'm afraid the audio quality online isn't great, so forgive me if I ask a daft question. However, I've been looking at the council plan, particularly the strategic priority 4.2 and the deliverables underneath that. I was particularly looking at review and embed stronger engagement practices with appropriate community sector partners to support early community-based non-statutory help for residents, helping them to remain living independently for longer in their own homes, which I very much welcome. That all sounds great stuff. I'm very keen on all of this. It's got a target completion date of September 24, which it seems ambitious, but it's only ambitious because I'm not 100% sure quite what does that mean. What is it that's going to be delivered in terms of those engagement practices? So if possible, if anyone could just explain what that precisely means for me, please.
Councillor Darren,
Thank you. Yeah, these are activities that were already in the transformation plan for this year. In fact, you know, it's come up in previous years, it's come up in previous budgets, but actually not been implemented. So we now have this overarching transformation committee overseeing these transformations. But the work, you know, particularly, I'm looking at bullet 1 here, which, you know, which sits in my directorate. It's keeping people living in their homes for longer. The work has already started on that. So although, you know, September, you know, is only sort of 3 or 4 months away, you know, the work has already started, and it had in fact started in previous years. I am happy to go to Kevin Miles for an update on that and make sure we are still on track for that. But you know, I'm not overly worried at this point. Hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lisa, sorry. Yeah. So just what I wanted to say generally on this was that as an administration, we're very keen to involve stakeholders in the processes much earlier, rather than sort of coming up with a strategy and, you know, say, what do you think? And I know Ellen's worked really hard on that. There has been a lot of engagement over this. So I think it'd be useful to know really, you know, what the Disability Forum thinks of how it's going and what we can improve in terms of, you know, getting that early involvement. But also at the beginning of the meeting, you talked about, you know, what do we do in between the meetings. I think this is a really good possible work item where we could be doing bits of work in between, perhaps a subgroup, and really, you know, really give this forum some teeth rather than us looking at stuff retrospectively. So, you know, I think it's a good opportunity.
thank you. Yes, completely agree. Councillor Price.
I'm thinking again of the role of corporate and scrutiny.
Could you speak up?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the work of corporate overview and scrutiny and how what it's doing should tie in with this, and they shouldn't be going along as 2 separate entities. So somehow it might be worth speaking to the chairman to see how this is going to be dealt with here and how that might tie in with what they're doing, so it's a seamless route.
Yes, and I wonder if there are others stakeholder groups as well that, you know, we want to sort of avoid duplication, but if there are overlaps, then that's increasing the diversity of opinion and lived experience and things like that contribute to some of these. So is there anybody who disagrees with us looking at some deliverables and taking them forward, getting involved in reviewing them and helping achieve them? Anybody disagree? I'm not seeing any hands online. So we're just trying to understand why there's black rectangles appeared on the screen. We could talk through these. I have another suggestion, which is that all 4 members, if you would do so, to go through these deliverables. Also, Claire or Ellen can send out the shortened list. Have a look through that, and it would be useful if each person would say whether they would like to go further, like the forum on this, to go ahead with each of those on the shortened list, and then if there are other deliverables not on the shortened list that actually we could consider cooperating with. If people could do that by the end of this month, then we can kind of review it together with Councillor Reynolds and Councillor Duncan. But the end of the month is going to be a busy situation for some people. But if we can try and get that done, review the list, and then we will circulate what the complete list is, and why it would be useful to know whether you agree to take for the forum to take forward each one, so we can see which of the ones that the most members requested wanted to get involved in. So does that sound like a plan? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other points before we move on from the council plan? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Julia, you can give us an update on AccessAble in Maidenhead.
So thank you very much. Quickly, this is going to come up on the screen shortly. The Maidenhead guides are done. They are published, but in true live event style, they are not working this morning on the website. So the AccessAble team are busy in the background trying to resolve that for me this morning. But they are done, as well as the ASCOT guides. So that's the good news. The Maidenhead Town Manager was planning a launch event towards the end of April. Her workload is such that she hasn't been able to bring that together yet, but hopefully there will be some form of launch event in Maidenhead. So I just wanted to show you quickly on our website where this information can be found. So under visitor information, we have a travelling with a disability section. Not on my own laptop, so forgive me. And then I think this is the area that you worked with Charlotte in my team, didn't you, Lisa, to make sure that all this information was correct. So it's an introduction to travelling to the Royal Borough if you have a disability, and the information that's available to you to help with your planning. So we link directly out to the AccessAble website from there, and then you can see a rather nice page for the Royal Borough, which then links, have an intro there, and then as we go down, you will see, I have to keep going and keep going and keep going. We have the guides there, Ascot, Eton, Maidenhead and Windsor now. So the borough has funded a certain number of the guides. The Windsor and Eton guides were funded through the recovery funding post-COVID. And then we had UK SPF funding for the Maidenhead and Ascot guides, which is great. We are now working with AccessAble, who have gone into partnership with Visit England to provide a portal for businesses to go on and have their own guides produced at a much lower cost. So we're actively promoting that to our business partners to encourage them to go and get theirs done. And every time a business has a guide produced, then it's added to ours. So it just becomes more and more comprehensive the more businesses we can encourage to participate in this. So we will continue to push that with our businesses and hopefully get them involved. I am waiting on up-to-date stats, but just on the Windsor guide alone, in the year, February 23 to February 24, we were seeing 722 users a month actually linking through, and that was mainly being referred via our website onto AccessAble. So it is working, people are using it and finding it helpful, which really good news. As I say, I will get some up-to-date stats on usage across all of them as soon as I can. So that's in that period, that was just under 9,000 users and just under 14,500 page views. So it's really comforting to know that this work is being used. A couple of other things. As a result of the work we've done here, Visit England invited us to be part of their Accessible Destinations toolkit as a case study. So if I go back to when you find it, so where we have individual products that have their access guides, we now have an AccessAble button which links directly through to their guide. I'm try and think of a good example. So there you can see the purple AccessAble button, which if I click on that now, links straight through to their guide on the AccessAble website. So we have quite a number of businesses listed on our site which have their own access guides. And I think that's what's driving this traffic, is the fact that it's so visible, so quick and easy to link through to the access information on the AccessAble website. It's really proving to be very helpful for people planning their visits. So apologies, I can't show you the Maidenhead information at the moment. Promise you it's going to be up there in a couple of days' time.
How many businesses or pages were funded?
I think it was around 20 were funded in the initial tranche. And as I said,
Maidenhead and Ascot.
no, separately. So Ascot was a smaller number, 10 funded, and then you get the train stations and the kind of the public realm are in addition to businesses being assessed and guides being produced. So and Tesco has a deal with AccessAble as well. So all Tesco stores are listed. And we've obviously done libraries, the town hall, those kinds of important buildings that residents as well as visitors want to access. So yeah, I think we've got quite a nice spread now, and as I say, we can encourage businesses to have their own guides done, and it will just continue to grow over time.
And with the recovery fund, you were able to offer disability awareness training to various businesses in Windsor and Eton. Has that continued for the Maidenhead?
Yes. So we have licenses. We have 250 licenses for disability essentials e-learning, which we will start promoting now. It's in our business side now. I have to say it's quite difficult to get businesses to put their staff through, so it does need a constant reminder. This is there, available to them free of charge, and actually it's a really good course. We've now just published our new 5-year visitor economy development plan, and accessibility is a priority throughout that plan. And we will be looking at training for frontline staff as part of the overarching welcome to the Royal Borough. And we're hoping that we'll come up with an online training which businesses will adopt as part of their inductions, but will include the AccessAble e-learning as well. So it'll be about local area knowledge, customer service, but also that disability awareness as well. So if we can capture all of that in one online training course, that would be fantastic.
I see Peter has his hand up.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Julia. I've just been going up and down the website. It does look great, and in fact, I was talking with colleagues just last week about the importance of for visitors to have as much information available in one place. We can all Google, but you can also get lost and go off on other things. But to have one website that's so comprehensive is a really big step forward. So just wanted to congratulate you on doing that, Julia. And also thank you for the mentions for People to Places and our shop mobility service. I'm very grateful for that as well. So I think it looks really professional. So I'm very impressed. One discussion I had as part of this conversation last week was around the Royal Windsor Horse Show, and I could see that there was a mention of it on the website, but I didn't particularly see any links to the horse show. Obviously, it's done and dusted for this year now, but I just wondered, were there intentions to generate linkages for one-off events like that?
Well, we obviously promote the event through our What's On, and so we do link through our What's On section, and then we promote it on our social channels. Do you mean the accessibility element of it, Peter?
Well, that was the big question. There was a point was made to me last week that if someone wanted to use our equipment, they can book that online. If they need to book a disabled parking bay, they can book that online, but that's a separate site. And then if they need to buy tickets for the horse show, well, that's a third site as well. So I just wondered if there was any scope for trying to have, again, one site that people go to and they bang, it's all just done automatically, because there's very few people that want to come to the horse show but don't want a ticket. That would seem nonsensical. And if they've got mobility issues, then they probably will need some disabled parking and some assistance around as well through the scooters. So I just wondered if there was any scope for that on your website.
Absolutely. I mean, we would assume, and obviously wrongly so in this case, that all that information would be clear on the horse show website. So we would just link to their site, and then hopefully the visitor would find everything they need there, rather than us having to gather that and make sure it's all accurate and up to date. But certainly something we can look at for next year for sure.
Sure.
And with all of this, if you spot any omissions, errors, we want to make sure that it is right. So please feed through anything that you think, any way we can improve what we're currently doing. We just want to keep building from where we are now and making sure that it's a really useful section of the site.
That's good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. Actually, while as you're still here, and I'll let you get away, but before the meeting started, we were discussing about whether people had AOP. And Julia mentioned that parts of the Windsor Horse Show there were comments made that the trade stands were not accessible. Peter, I just wondered whether you had heard anything through the scooter hider.
Sorry, could you repeat that? The audio quality is quite poor sometimes. I didn't really catch the question.
Sorry, so Julia mentioned earlier, before the meeting started, about comments that had been made at Windsor Horse Show about the trade stands not being accessible, and I wondered whether People's Places had heard anything.
Nothing has come to me directly, but I can certainly speak to my colleagues who were present on the day or on the days, and just see if they've got any feedback at all. So I can pass that back to Julia and the forum for sure.
Thanks very much. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. Thanks, Julia. This is really interesting. I'm just having a look around the website as we speak. One of my questions was going to be, do you have to reach a minimum standard to be on there, or do they just show, you know, what's and all? I think it's what's and all, isn't it? Which is really good. I'm just wondering, you know, there's some really useful information in here about how we as a borough can improve. You know, for example, you know, the gate is difficult to open. Have we got a mechanism feeding that back into outdoor facilities, highways, you know, to get those issues fixed?
I don't know of one, unless it's, well, there is the report it system, but I don't know in this case whether that would be the right mechanism.
Yeah, it just strikes me that, you know, they're effectively giving us a checklist. Things we need to do. It would be great if we could just figure out a sort of efficient way to get that back into offices. Brilliant. Well, yeah. Okay. I'll have a think. Yeah. I mean, Lawrence, do you just make an action?
Yeah.
So we don't lose that.
Yeah, thank you. It's really encouraging. How many restaurants in Maidenhead are I find?
Oh, now you're, you are really putting me on the spot. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Well, unless I made a mistake, please see it.
Right. I'm pretty certain we included a couple, but I will double check that.
Yeah, so if I
On
look at, I'm looking for a restaurant here to Maidenhead.
yes, and the
This
property.
is 5 miles, one, and that's probably in Slack.
Yes, this is what I said at the beginning. The Maidenhead guides are not currently appearing on the site.
So it's 12 right?
Yeah, so this is what's
I'll
being
look
fixed in.
tomorrow.
Give it a couple of days, wait till Wednesday. And then we can-
Or, I don't know how, onerous this would be if you let me know when it goes live, and then I'll circulate.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a list on my laptop of the businesses that were surveyed. Yeah, but
So yeah, once it's live.
yeah, you can just see that there.
Because I might have a lot of fun looking. My point is always this is fantastic, but there is a sort of a level of percentage of establishments you need to reach to make it really valuable. I'm telling you, that's the problem. So you want to go out somewhere and you're phoning around to find if they have any steps. Real things for them. This would solve it, but we've got to have, you know, at least 50% of the establishments on the.
Absolutely, and sadly the funding would only go so far.
And do you remember the discussion was that we could have convinced those establishments that it's not worthwhile for them to pay their own.
Yes, absolutely. And this new portal that AccessAble has launched makes it much easier for them to do it themselves and more affordable. So yes, that's exactly the point we need to get across, that it's worthwhile doing it, business reasons, but actually it's not too onerous if they do it via this portal. Yeah.
Well, they won't be answering so many phone calls.
Yes.
People individually ringing up.
Yes.
Yeah. Were there any other questions or comments for Julia? We're not saying anything, so thank you very much. It's great. It's like all these steps forward, which is really heartening. So thank you. So next on the agenda is me to give a verbal update on Parallel. Windsor. So if there is anyone who doesn't know what Parallel Windsor is, it's a set of challenge events and festival around disability inclusion set in Windsor Park on the Long Walk. So this year it's this will be its second year in Royal Borough. So it's taking place on the 7th of July around the Long Walk in Windsor Park. There are 5 challenge events ranging from 100 metres to 10k. There's also a festival village with a picnic area, food concessions and bar, right above the brewery. There are activities and entertainment, including a live music stage, arts and crafts, storytelling, sports, active lifestyle, play, skills and careers. technology, mobility and community, so there's quite a lot there. There is on-site parking, there are mobility aids for hire, there are accessible toilets, medical support, quiet spaces, a sensory zone and sport amenities are welcome. So tickets can be booked online for the challenge events, for the festival, for merchandise and for parking. And I know this year, actually when I googled Parallel Windsor, lots of charities came up first of all, so they are promoting it to their members as well. So, and hopefully, I think given the date was put out there, I'm sure a lot more of our schools and which will say what list will be able to participate and go along to that. So, any questions in the room? No, any questions online? Not seeing any hands there, so thank you. We'll move on to Padel Berkshire. So Councillor Reynolds, if you'd like to give us a bit of a update.
Thank you, Lisa. So there was a camp decision made last year to lease the old sports stable building in Berwick Park to Berkshire Padel, and that's generating income to the council at around £60,000 a year. There'll be a total of 7 courts, with them all being accredited for top level competition. For those who don't know, and I didn't know before the cabinet decision came through, before we all started looking at it, paddle tennis is a variation on tennis on a smaller court surrounded by walls, usually around 20 metres by 10 metres. It's almost a combination between tennis and squash. So like squash, you can play shots off the walls. All of the courts will be adapted for disabled access, which I think is really important for us to be able to have. Padel Berkshire hope for it to be an inclusive environment, welcoming members and visitors. There'll be a bar area for friends to be able to gather, post matches or just individually. There'll be a relaxation space beyond competitive play with indoor and outdoor facilities. Phil from Berkshire Padel has offered to come out and speak to the forum, or for members of the forum to go and see them over at the pavilion once they're open, hopefully in July. Being wasn't able to make today's meeting because they are racing to get finished ready for July.
And is there a particular date yet they've set for opening, or is that still?
They are hoping to finish in July and be ready for opening soon.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much. Were there any questions about Padel Berkshire? Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Josh. You mentioned disabled access. Does that include actually being able to play in the wheelchair? Can you use your own, or do they have special supporting wheelchairs used?
I don't know the answer to that final bit. Yes, all of the courts will be wheelchair accessible, so you can play in the wheelchair. I don't know specifically whether they have individual wheelchair they need to use, but I'm sure they'll be able to update them and see what comes out.
Yes, John.
Do you know if they are going to have any rental space for the rest of the community?
I can't remember. I remember seeing a floor plan that went through the planning application where there was a hall type space. I don't know whether that's going to be accessible for rental, whether that's going to be out of commercial occupier. But within Berwick Park itself, obviously you've got lots of accessible halls and lots of halls that can be rented, thinking over it. Right.
And the partners.
Right, and the plant nursery. I'm sure I'll get told by Maidenhead Athletics Club and the Rugby Club for not mentioning all of their specific groups.
I'm not sure. Yeah, if there are 7 courts, I'm thinking of the size of the sports building, it would seem unlikely there's also a pool.
So there's one indoor course, the rest of the courts are all outdoor courts. So there is one indoor court in the main sports in the main hall from the sports area at the front to the left.
Yeah.
That's going to be one course, and they're on the front elevation rather than just being brick. They're going to glaze it so you're able to see it and see what's happening. And then the remaining courts are going to be outside in a new area, and one specific competition grade court with some seating area as well.
So maybe there is where that second smaller hall.
The sort of to the side of the bar area. I can't remember whether that's going to be set aside or whether something that it'd be worth.
The reason I ask is that the owners group used to use sports safety short programs.
Yeah.
Weekly coffee, and ever since that time, it's around, current venues, it's probably going to be not accessible to us anymore in the future. I was hoping that the padel tennis building would have access rentable space. So I got in contact with them directly. Last time I talked to them, they said they hadn't made that decision, but I just wanted so. I'll get back in touch with them and say I know that they're very happy that their sort of the bar area will be open for members and non-members. I think they were quite encouraged for the dog walkers to pop in and have coffee during the day. So I'm sure that they have accessible areas. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Padel Berkshire? Let's wish them success and hope that they do manage to finish their works in July and open soon. So last item on the agenda is the draft equality policy. Over to Ellen.
Thank you, Lisa. So I'm just going to just share my screen. Right, so RBWM has an equality policy. This lays out what the council's responsibilities are, what our legal responsibilities are, so under the Equality Act, and our public sector equality duty. And it outlines the principles and the processes that the council follows that we use to make sure that we're fulfilling these responsibilities, both in terms of what we do kind of outwardly facing as a in terms of delivering services, and also as an employer, think about the workforce of the council.
Sorry to interrupt. Are you able to put that on slideshow?
Yes. So the policy was last revised in 2018. So to do a little bit of a refresh. So it's been updated. A draft was included with the agenda pack, so you might have a chance to have a look at it. I'm not going to go through all of it in detail. I can kind of skim through it after I've just gone through this slide. But it brings the policy up to date in terms of developments that we've made around our equality impact assessments, also various HR policies. We've got other internal developments and counts as well. It's been expanded quite a bit from our previous policies. So lots of things that weren't really included last time that we now do talk about. So things like the role of counsellors, kind of around grant making, the importance of care experience, kind of thinking about that as kind of an additional characteristic in that particular vulnerable group. So other things like that we've done internally, we've now updated the policy to reflect that. Also, as we've seen, the new council plan, the organisational values that we have, it's made sure it's aligned with what we've got those kind of bigger changes. So just to go to the policy itself, so as I said, this is a draft at the moment. The next steps with it are it's going to go to, so it's developed based on the existing policy and then in conversation with officers and also with CL2, our corporate leadership team, to look at kind of what needs to be in there. Also, Councillor Reynolds contributed in his role as an equalities champion. And next steps, so it's going to take into our executive leadership team, and also into cabinet as well, so making sure that we kind of embed it and get signed off at the highest level. So, like I said, I won't go through kind of everything that's out there, so you kind of hopefully have had a chance to have a look. If not, you can very welcome to any of the feedback you want to send outside this meeting, please do send it to me. It just kind of, outlines the importance of equalities, the kind of where it fits in with kind of other pieces of work like the council plan, what the point of having the policy is. And the section about our responsibilities, so the public sector policy duty, what we have to do under that, and then how the World Borough does meet those legal obligations. The next section is about service deliveries. I realise this is probably totally illegible. Please do check it out afterwards. So it talked about consultation, about having equity in service delivery. Goes into more detail in our quality impact assessments and the importance of those in making sure that we are fulfilling our quality duties. Looking at planning and design, service delivery, and digital exclusion and accessibility gets mentioned there as well. How we work with our partners and making sure that the equality policy is used to communicate that that's the expectations that we have with people that use us as contractors and partners, just like our training, complaints, how we use our grant making powers, roles of councillors, and then on the kind of internal employment side, things like our disability confidence scheme, we're a member of, the kind of what we do around that, things around kind of other groups like the armed forces, through our kind of the armed forces covenant, our responsibilities through that, our roles as corporate parents, our internal EDI group, so kind of going through various internal things about that. And then we've got the section about kind of monitoring, so how we make sure we're adhering with the policy. So again, kind of demographic questions that we mentioned in terms of consultations in there, so that's one of those ways that we can kind of help look at the impact of our, how we're engaging people, also what the impact is of some of our decisions, and then on the kind of internal side as well, so the things we monitor an employee point of view as well. So so that's the policy. If anyone's got kind of any questions, or if you've had a chance to look at it, any comments, anything in there, like I said, if you haven't, but you want to come back with any thoughts on that side of this meeting, very happy to send them on to me, and I'll kind of look at them.
How do you see the forum working to kind of assist or hold the council to account over its equality objectives?
So I think it's in that kind of that wider part of how we engage with the community that I've talked already about, the things in the council plan about kind of working with the voluntary sector and with kind of residents and that, just really trying to strengthen our engagement and how we use that engagement to meaningfully inform the decisions that we make. So yes, the form doesn't get kind of an explicit mention in there, but we do talk about the importance of consultation and engagement, and that's where this group and similar groups fit in terms of making sure that we've got positive, meaningful relationships that kind of work for everybody, and that we're able to kind of use the information, use the lived experience of the residents who engage with us through groups like this to inform our understanding of the needs of the community and the impact of decisions that we make.
And do you think it would be useful to have some regular item on the agenda around it, or is that just a bit too formulaic and things will evolve over time? So it's difficult to have that balance between kind of getting involved or having updates versus, there's all sorts of things that will be happening in different streams at different rates.
Well, the policy itself won't really change. That's kind of not, not particularly. Obviously, it'll be updated on a kind of,
I guess something more of the objective.
That's it. So it's when those And because of the, kind of wanted to make sure the capital plan process first before those deliverables and everything is set out. So the refresh of the quality objectives and kind of reviewing those, the next step to do now that we've got that kind of the long list and all the things around the transformation projects is looking at the things we've already set out as our project. So we're very happy to bring those to the board of the future meeting, and then we can have a similar conversation as we've had around the council plan about are there particular areas we really want to focus on, and are there effective things, the things I think the board wants to see highlighted.
Thank you. I didn't look at your hand up, but it's Josh. Sorry.
That's right, thank you. I think one of the things just off that and the questions that you had, Lisa, then I think it goes back almost to my point of being about the consultation group that's set up in the council. I mean, for me, there's a key difference between us putting a consultation out and the Disability and Inclusion Forum being able to respond to it, and us having a consultation and coming to the Disability and Inclusion Forum and asking for that response. Both might achieve the same rough outcome, but I think there's a clear difference, and there's clear blue water between those two methods. And I prefer the second method where we want a consultation, we're having a consultation, and we go out to groups like this and others and ask for specific feedback. And that's something that I'm really trying to push in with the team to really make sure we get that embedded in our fabric as a council. So I think hopefully that's, I wouldn't say it's not being an item on the agenda every agenda, but when things come up, saying, okay, well, this intersects with a meeting of the forum, let's bring it to the forum. But at the same time, if we've got a consultation which we want the forum's feedback on, it's not saying, oh, the forum, the consultation will close before the next forum meeting, so we're not going to offer, but it's instead circulating an email out to forum members and saying, we have this one, so could you look at it and discuss it over email or privately and come back to us, making sure that we're not hamstrung by the way our meetings are set up, but we use the meetings to the best of our chat.
And that's really happy. I mean, two emails from Andy Mann about the PSPO further consultation. So one that's Disability Inclusion Forum, chair of the one, so 6 months. Yeah, so it is. Yeah.
We are doing good.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. On a similar theme, I mean, it seems to me there's two routes for the disability forum to have input. One is to be a formal consultation. I think you said, Ellen, that people can give you comments as well informally. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, just if you haven't had a chance to look through the policy, then if you've got thoughts you want to share and you haven't had a chance, you want to kind of have a look. If any thoughts kind of by, again, like I said, this is going to go to ELT and to cabinets, both kind of by the end of the month. No, cabinets by the end of July. Yeah, I'll use it to use in a couple of weeks. But if you've got any comments, you can kind of send them to me and I can just have a look and just put that into any other feedback I get.
So when would you need that feedback by?
As soon as possible, really. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, we'll,
so we suggest that if anyone has any comments or questions around that, if they can get that to you this week.
This week would be perfect, or next couple of weeks, if you don't have a chance, that would be really useful.
Okay. Any other comments or questions around the equality policy? Not seeing any hands online, so we will move to AOB. And actually, there was an AOB from the last meeting around electoral registration and learning disabilities. And I think Sharon Hunt, Vicky and Ellen were going to talk about that afterwards. I don't know if that's happened.
No, we didn't specifically have a conversation. I just, I checked trying to refresh my memory. There was, so when the photo ID was first brought out, on that there was central guidance that came up from the government, which was an easy read version of the guidance around photo ID. So I've kind of flagged it to my communications team and colleagues that if we're kind of putting things out around, so I'm not sure that it happened for the police and fire commissioner election. I'm not sure if we highlighted that guidance. Obviously, ahead of the general election, that any guidance that did come out about voter ID, that's recirculated again. So people.
Okay, thank you. Then a new AOB, so on parking and pavements. I've noted that the Rikers Way car park ramp is closed there because the chief fell off it, and I just had a question about what sort of timescale it was for that to be evaluated, and hopefully the ramp reopened. So I'm not expecting an answer today, but I just thought I would put that question there. And also, I know Sharon once raised that the landing development at the end of Broadway, there were dropped curbs, so you could cross across Queen Street. I'm not sure what the
From Broadway to Queen Street across by the.
yeah, there was two, and there were no dropped curbs, so I went back through the all of the documentation on this particular planning application, and I noted that I hadn't sorted that either. When I went back and looked at those particular plans, it was evident to see there were dropped curbs in other places around there, but it was missed, and so I hold my hands up as well. I didn't notice that when I submitted some comments around that. But it does make me think again, how did this happen in 2024? And how do we stop that happening? I mean, I did, when I was getting involved a lot with planning applications, consistently ask the planning department whether the design and access statements could actually be reviewed by planning to ensure that they did cover disability access. Because the tick box was, there was a design and access statement. I mean, it could be absolutely rubbish and completely for disability access, which I often found. I haven't had the time, frankly, to look at many of the kind of more recent large developments, their design and access statements. But again, it would be good to know from colleagues through the planning department whether that is being kind of interrogated a bit more to ensure it's relevant. Yes, Councillor.
So just very quickly, getting through the lines to try and find the 2 points, one on Vickers Way and one on the drop curb. So whenever a developer makes a change to the road, they completed work to submit to the council for audit information they completed to the standard that was agreed. The review process for that development is currently underway, and one of the transport teams spoken to the developer to confirm that they need informal drop curb crossing with a tactile approach needs to be provided, and the developers have been given instructions to make it good.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the wording of informal, I mean, I think uncontrolled crossing, I'm not entirely sure what informal.
I think it's the technical term of informal. I think informal is the formal wording for it. But I don't know the exact term of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We've done before about and you've pointed out to me tactical shadings. There's no one Facebook wanted to know or whatever. Is it possible for Lisa to actually see the plan before they go ahead and implement it? Because otherwise, just it needs to be fixed rather than.
The officer responsible is currently on annual leave for a few days,
Yes.
but I can drop him a message and ask.
I mean, I'm not suggesting this should be every single one, but given that this is a key location.
Yeah, because actually there were two that was needed there because there were two. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, yes, councillor.
Has that slipped through the net? Is it possible to put a process in place for future development so there are so in other words, this checklist of everything that should be considered under the heading of disability and quality of access? And I mean, I would have thought it was done, but it's obviously not.
So in the design and access statement, the applicant should include disability access in that. But there are times when people either misinterpret or just haven't updated their technical knowledge, so they then treat access as being vehicular access rather than pedestrian access. So it's not just the access, it's whether people are able to gain access to and use the space. And as I say, the planning team, they receive the design and access statements, but certainly in the past, it was confirmed to me by the then kind of deputy head of planning that they don't read them. The fact that it's arrived was a tick box. So my question is around whether planning now is actually going through it, and highways again, because highways definitely are. There were something like 430 documents with this particular application, and it went through highways as well, and they didn't spot it. So I think my pushback as a resident would be, these are things that we would expect the built environment professionals to oversee and ensure are correct.
So what can we do in the future to make sure that those are checked in the processes?
So, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just need to feed this back to the people planning, and he can take up his regular updates and see. That's probably the best start.
And this application I think was being commissioned in 2018, so it's 6 years ago now. So, and there's there was a completely different, pretty much completely different planning team. So that my perception of it is from those kind of years. So maybe completely different now, and not such an issue, but it would be good to just.
I think it would be good to know that when we do have these sort of elderly applications, that there is a process for thinking about issues later on. I don't know through the control.
Yeah, but as I say, if the lead planning was made aware of this, and then we could feedback. The last item on my area before I open it up is just to let floor members know that there is further consultation on a PSPO, which is a public space protection order. Thank you. So public space protection order, and this is around cycling on Maidenhead, High Street and Hesford Street in Windsor. And the consultation is around whether to allow cycling on those two pedestrianised areas between 5 PM and 10 AM. So they're kind of not allowed between 10 AM and 5 PM. So this is looking at the kind of overnight and early morning part of it. So that consultation is open until the 28th of June, so people can submit, it's a very short consultation. People can submit comments individually, or if people want to feed back to me, then I can submit, I have submitted individually, I can submit also as chair of the forum. Councillor.
Just very quickly, because when you mentioned there were a few confused looks in the room and on the screen, the reason that those times are suggested is that those are the times that the vehicles are out onto those streets for loading and unloading. So although between 5 PM and 10 AM, you're allowed a lorry to go onto Maidenhead High Street, the PSPO currently prohibits cycling 24/7. So the PSPO, if approved, would bring two in line with each other. So that, yeah, that's the rationale behind those slightly strange sounding time frames.
And do you know how electric bikes are considered?
I've seen an email on that problem.
It's very nice.
So e-bikes is a common term, but for the purpose of the law, there is no such thing as an e-bike. There is an electric assisted pedal cycle, which is a traditional pedal bike with motorised assistance from hills and at low speeds. These can be cycled without a licence anywhere a push bike can be seen. Anything that does not meet the criteria of an electric assisted pedal bike is then considered a moped, which is a motorised thing. So if it is an EAPC, then it would be covered by the PSPO. However, if it's more than that, it's considered a moped, which wouldn't be allowed, and mopeds, obviously, even those will have to be taxed and licensed.
Thank you. Were there any questions on that? Thank you very much. So other area we covered Windsor Horse Show. Vicky wanted to mention changing places.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. So back in 2021, I was made aware that there was some government funding for local authorities to bid for to install a changing place within their towns for local authorities. So I put that forward to Kevin West, who was our Lord of Leisure in RBWM at the time, who took that forward. I believe since his retirement, at least took that application on board, and the borough was successful in securing, not exactly, but £40,000 to go towards the changing place being installed. With the links that I have within my role as Community Development for Oxley's, working with people with a learning disability and additional physical support needs as well, it is an area which we found to be seriously lacking within Windsor and Maidenhead. And I think if you still look at the Changing Places website, there's still only formally on their allocation for Windsor a changing facility that meets the Changing Places criteria at Windsor Castle, Legoland, and now Windsor Leisure Centre is the third one that has been added to the list. Now, that's great. It's going to have its official opening during Learning Disability Week, which will be on Thursday, 20th of June. It is in place now. I'm not sure what the usage is, and I'm not sure what the processes are to monitor that usage. I've seen it. The space is great. It's great that we have another facility that is open to the public, and I'm sure that the leisure services will be open to people that are visiting the town that are utilising those tourist attractions to use it and to be aware that it's there. From my perspective, the people that we support within our community life services who have quite complex, profound and multiple disabilities, the changing bed wasn't as I would have liked within the remit of some of the needs, which mean additional support. I won't go into huge details.
Oh, I'd like to pick it up with you.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
But it's great that it's there, and it will meet the needs of many, many people. So bring extra people into Windsor to use the leisure services, but also to come to the town as well. There is one that's not on the list, which is Maidenhead, which is the Great Leisure Centre, and that was something that was installed when the building was built, which is a great facility for people that are using some important leisure services itself. So that's on Thursday the 20th, which is next week, which would be great to promote that
to the wider community, and to have a really great resource that is vital for people additionally, is to get out and about and to plan their day without having to think about those things that we take for granted. So I don't know whether you want to add anything.
No, I think it's been a long time coming for this, changing places. I know when I took over the portfolio back in May 2023, officers were talking to me saying we were almost ready to open this facility, and we're sat in now in June 2024, having still not formed. So it's been a long time coming, but I'm really glad we're able to get it moving and open it next week.
So that would be great. Again, like I said, it is one public, but you don't have to pay to go into one of our facilities to use it. So I think a conversation about usage, availability within our local authority would be good to have outside and inside that, and find out the numbers of people that would benefit greatly. I mean that their day-to-day life would be much improved by knowing that these facilities are available to them in the local towns. So
yeah, I have spoken with Julia about whether there's somewhere that we can get one in the Windsor town centre, because the leisure centre isn't too far outside the town centre, but yeah, people going there onto the long walk, Guildhall, just around the town centre, it would be brilliant. I think again, the castle, they've said if people ask, they would allow them access without having to pay. But they said it's unfortunate where the change of places is situated within the castle that is about as far away from the entrance as possible. So to get one, given the number of visitors we get into Windsor in particular, it would be great if we could get one there. So yeah, this was more money or grant money that becomes available. Julie would be keen for us to bid for that as well. So do we have any other business? Don?
Well, the person is the only forum meeting in recent times where we haven't mentioned parking. And I just wanted to point out in the minutes from the last that we had that presentation about of the Broadway car park, but that's rather planned. And the opposite of the presentation is future plans. So frequencies passed by. Hopefully in the next forum meeting we can have that. What is planned for us?
Yeah, so Angela and I met with a few councillors to discuss kind of really what could be done in relation to long-term grants and parking, and there are kind of deadlines that are sort of coming up in the next couple of months, which will make it clearer about how many and how some debated parking may be able to be brought back into the town centre. So I think
on that side.
Sorry? On that side, that I can't be sure.
So the context an idea which is temporary park.
Yeah.
Not just obviously but rebrand.
Yeah, as I say, the deadlines are coming up, so by the next forum, hopefully, we'll have something to report. Yes, I would be say.
I think I would just said that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's anything else that we can really cover and say at the moment, but I think you can quite well in terms of there are, deadlines.
Any councillor, would you like something?
Yeah, I think Robin just mentioned something about the audio quality in the chat. I think so. I don't know if I'll answer that question.
Thank you.
It just popped up on the screen and then just did it.
Yes, so Robin is saying that he agrees with Peter's comments about the online audio meeting. He said he wonders if it's a one-off and hopes previous arrangements will return in the future. And he says that he was waiting for quite some time. I did put in the chat that there were a lot of technical issues. So if there are no other
That's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I spoke at Maidenhead Town Forum at the last meeting that they had back in May. I mentioned this, but I think it would also be a good thing to mention here as well. So at the last Maidenhead Town Forum meeting, we had a presentation by Pete from the Autism Group, which was established in 2016. And Becky explained to us how people with autism, there were a few adaptations which were needed, including structure and predictability of places they're going. That worked really well with something that we have been working on for some time that I'd like to share. So I was recently speaking to a resident whose son had autism, and she said that he would really like to go to one of our libraries, but wasn't sure what he was going to find when he got there. The location of each genre of book, he wasn't sure where that would be, which doors do you go in via. There are 2 entrances to the library, which one's accessible, which one's not, which one's the best one for him to use. How do I check the book out? Where are the toilets and some other items which he wanted cleared up. So off the back of that, we are developing maps of each of our libraries. They'll be posted on the RBWM websites, and it will be a really simple, easy to view map, just outlining your entrances and exits, where the toilets are located, where the staircases are, lifts, but also going in where are some of your different books, what genres do you have in various locations, and where do you check your account, where's the reception desk, how do I do something. So we're looking at that as, and we're bringing those in, and hopefully they should be online in the future. We have the website is currently going through some work. So if it's not a business critical item, we aren't going to get it up as of today, but it is being done to make sure we can those check and get our budget, so everything should be done soon.
Thank you, Ash. Pete's last one. I'm not necessarily no, I think things like that again are maybe hidden from non-disabled people's views, so this is very well. We're at 12:59. Does anyone else?
That's amazing.
If not, I would like to apologise to anybody for the technical issues that we've been having this morning, particularly around audio for those people joining on Zoom. So I'm going to do this for the September meeting. And just a reminder, if you can let me know about the deliverables from the corporate plan, then we can feed that in and start moving that forward. And any comments about the policy development by the end of the week or by the end of next week. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.